America's coal sales to other countries just crashed by a huge 94%. This wiped out billions of dollars and shocked everyone in an industry that was already having trouble. Giant piles of coal that nobody wants are filling up warehouses. Deals are disappearing and whole towns are getting ready to close down. A $1.5 million fee on ships from other countries started all this mess, but now the problems are spreading really fast. How did America go from powering the world to watching its selling business fall apart without anyone talking about it? For many years, coal was way more than just something to burn for America. It was like a symbol that showed how strong our factories were. American coal didn't just stay in America. It traveled all around the world. It powered the big machines that make steel in Asia, kept factories running in Europe, and helped cities grow way beyond America's borders. It was the quiet power behind countless tall buildings, roads, and train tracks. Even when Americans at home started using less coal and cleaner energy began taking over, coal still had a second chance overseas. When power plants at home shut down and people wanted less coal, the companies that dig up coal didn't freak out. They changed their plan. They turned to selling coal to other countries around the world, believing that as long as foreign buyers still needed it, the coal business could stay alive. The smartest thing for you to do is hope that this brings back the coal business in your state. And for a while, that plan worked great. American coal companies started selling way more coal to countries like India, South Korea, and parts of Europe, where coal was still a really important part of making steel and creating energy. These buyers from other countries were seen as the last big hope. Selling coal to other countries became the backup plan, maybe even the only plan for a business that was already getting smaller at home. It was a way to keep the people who dig coal working, keep trains moving, and stop small towns from disappearing. As long as someone somewhere needed coal, America could keep digging it up. But in early 2025, the cracks started to show up. Once looked like a steady way to sell, coal began to fall apart. Shipments that used to happen all the time were delayed or canceled. Long-time deals began to fall through. Buyers who once counted on American coal began looking somewhere else, not sure if they could still count on getting their coal on time. The roads, ports, railroads, and shipping routes that kept American coal flowing across the globe suddenly became jammed with problems. And just like that, the industry's safety plan began to tear apart. Then came the real shock. Within just a few months, American coal sales to other countries didn't just go down a little, they crashed down by an unbelievable 94%. The bottom fell out almost overnight. Trains that once carried coal to the coast stopped running. Terminals that were once buzzing with workers grew silent, and coal, the black rock itself, didn't suddenly become worthless. It was still the same high-quality fuel, still wanted in parts of the world. The problem wasn't the coal. It was the rules, the politics, and the mess from Washington's decisions that had nothing to do with coal diggers or sellers. 50% tax will come in September on goods brought in from a huge country that had at some point hoped to make a trade deal with America. Taxes, port fees, and trade fights choked off the very ships that were supposed to carry coal to buyers. The global supply chain, already weak, buckled under the pressure. Countries turned to cheaper, easier options, and with no warning, the entire system collapsed. The coal industry didn't lose because it had nothing to sell. It lost because it no longer had a clear way to sell it. What was once seen as the backup plan turned into a dead end, and the crash came faster than anyone expected. One of the most devastating hits to America's coal-selling business didn't come from the market or the environment. It came from a political decision that many didn't see coming. In early 2025, the American government created a steep new tax aimed at putting pressure on China during an ongoing trade fight. The move involved slapping a massive docking fee, up to $1.5 million, on every cargo ship built in Chinese shipyards that docked at American ports. On the surface, it was presented as a bold, smart move in a larger world politics chess game. The message was clear. America was taking a hard stance against depending too much on China for business, but the impact of this rule went way beyond China. What Washington didn't seem to fully understand or chose to ignore was the fact that most of the world's cargo ships are built in China. These ships aren't just moving electronics or things people buy at stores. They're the lifeline of American coal sales to other countries. They carry millions of tons of coal from American ports to buyers around the world, especially to countries like India, South Korea, and parts of Europe that still count on coal for making steel and powering their factories. By targeting these ships with crushing docking fees, America accidentally crippled its own ability to get coal out of the country. Ship owners responded right away. Faced with sky-high costs, many simply refused to send their ships to American ports. Others changed their routes to countries where they could work without the money burden. Some canceled existing deals altogether, unwilling to absorb the added expenses or deal with the growing uncertainty around American trade logistics. The global shipping system works on razor-thin profits and tight schedules. When a fee of that size gets added into the equation, the math stops working for most carriers. A 15% tax on American coal actually worried that the country could turn to other countries to meet their energy needs. As a result, the American coal selling system began to fall apart almost instantly. Ports that once handled a steady stream of coal shipments became eerily quiet. Warehouses filled up with coal that couldn't be moved. Terminal space became hard to find, and rail deliveries were slowed or stopped because there was nowhere to unload. The ripple effect moved fast from docks to rail yards to mines. Contracts that took months or even years to negotiate were dissolved in a matter of days. Sellers were left scrambling, trying to find different routes or carriers that either didn't use Chinese-built ships or were willing to eat the fee. Most weren't. This wasn't just a logistics nightmare. It turned into a full-blown trust crisis. Overseas buyers started questioning whether American coal could be delivered on time or at all. Steelmakers and energy providers don't work on hope. They work on being sure about things. When delivery times start slipping and costs jump without warning, it doesn't matter how good the coal is. Buyers look for stability, and America could no longer offer it. Suddenly, the American coal industry, once seen as a reliable supplier, was viewed as unpredictable and risky. And that shift in how people saw things is perhaps the most dangerous part. Once trust is broken in global trade, it's incredibly hard to rebuild. Buyers started locking in contracts with competitors like Australia and Indonesia, who offered cheaper, faster, and more consistent shipping options. These weren't just temporary changes. They were long-term shifts that could push America out of the market entirely. What was meant to be a punch at China ended up being a punch to the gut of America's own coal sellers. And with every canceled shipment and rerouted ship, the industry edged closer to collapse. Not because it lacked supply, but because it lost the ability to deliver. Across coal terminals in the United States, mountains of black rock are stacking. Up with nowhere to go, sellers are in full-blown panic mode. What was supposed to be on ships weeks ago is now sitting in storage yards untouched. The flow of coal has come to a near standstill, and the clock is ticking. Sellers are warning that if this situation doesn't change in the next 60 days, they'll have no choice but to shut down operations entirely. That's not an exaggeration. That's how close they are to complete collapse. The problem isn't the supply. The coal is ready. It's mined, processed, and sitting in piles waiting for transport. The problem is everything else. The ships aren't coming. The buyers are canceling. And the system that once moved coal around the globe is frozen. When Washington added that $1.5 million tax on China-built cargo ships, it triggered a chain reaction. Shipping companies didn't want to pay the penalty. Many backed out of their agreements. Some abandoned American ports entirely, and with no one to carry the product, deals started to fall apart one after another. Contracts that took months to secure vanished in days. Foreign buyers who depended on American coal began to walk away, not because they didn't need the coal, but because the logistics had become too unpredictable. These buyers need stability, and America couldn't offer it anymore. That's when the panic really started to spread. Sellers weren't just losing business, they were losing trust. And once trust disappears in global trade, it rarely comes back quickly. This isn't just a setback, it's a money disaster. The American coal selling industry used to bring in over $130 billion in value. Now it's bleeding from every direction. Storage costs are rising. Rail lines are slowing down. Ports are sitting empty, and workers are being sent home. Every ton of coal sitting idle is money lost. And for smaller sellers who don't have deep money reserves or long-term backup plans, this could be the end of the road. But the way the American president has introduced his second term, taxes has sent shockwaves across the world. When I first saw that sign, I wasn't sure if it was real.